I don't have any grand lead in here. Tomato Way. Got onto Steam before Steam Direct took over, which probably means that people voted this game onto the storefront. And like what feels like a large proportion of shitty Steam games, the dev is Russian. How nice of him to announce it at the start of the game. The game opens in the middle of a desert with this California Raisins reject. He receives a letter from a passing snail, and what is up with the 8-bit shadows? We aren't told what the letter says, and Tomato Dude walks along a road with a fork in hand. He comes across an ugly-ass bug-eyed onion who tries to kill him for some reward money, and the tomato cleaves him into 3 pieces with one swing of the fork. Does anyone else get the feeling this dev watches a lot of anime? Do they have anime in Russia? What's funny is I played this intro twice because I didn't realize that I could put the game in widescreen, and the first time I played this, a chunk of dead guy got stuck on the tomato's feet and got dragged along as he walked. Well, walked is a little generous, he more slides along the ground. Episode 1 begins, you're in the middle of an empty-ass map with an outhouse. You walk to the house, and it turns out to be a bar that's massive on the inside. You're asked to turn on a jukebox, and when you do, onions just spontaneously appear at the bar's tables. The tomato asks for the sheriff, and keep in mind we still have no idea why the tomato came in here, and the bartender turns into a monster. You get attacked by giant yellow striped ladybugs, and then the bar falls away to reveal a massive lake of fire instead of indoor tunnels. Show of hands, who already has no idea what in the name of cock is going on? He just walks into a bar in the middle of an empty desert and now he's in hell? Is that even what's going on? Because I completely missed the Lake of Fire the first time. I just got done with The Quiet Man. Is it too much to ask for a game that's comprehensible?
I'm getting sick and tired of never understanding.
This first level is boring as shit. You walk through an endless series of featureless, identical, copy-pasted hallways, fighting an endless series of identical, copy-pasted, generic enemies. This level is infested with the same 2 melee enemies who die in 1 or 2 hits and have no AI other than charging straight at you, very rarely interrupted with a pickle with a machine gun that I'm not fully convinced can actually hit you. You get 4 weapons: the fork, a sledgehammer that just abruptly appears in your inventory, a shotgun, and a machine gun. You barely get any ammo for the guns, and what ammo you do get burns through fast, so the entire stage is spent circle strafing enemies that you barely really need to dodge, mashing the mouse button to bludgeon them to death. It gets boring really fast. This level of dull brown brick halls going on forever is half an hour long, and it feels a hell of a lot longer than that. The game does have checkpoints, but you're not told where any of the checkpoints are, and the halls are so identical I can never tell where I've respawned. One major problem with the game is the enemies don't make noise, so often you'll just start hemorrhaging health for no apparent reason, only to swivel around and find at least 2 enemies behind you. I don't know why so many shovelware devs get this wrong. The game is just flat out confusing, and not just because I have no idea why I'm here, what I'm trying to accomplish, why I now have to rescue tomatoes from cages, or why tomatoes are in chairs being drained of juice. The gameplay is confusing for several nagging problems. When you walk over items, the game doesn't tell you what you've picked up, or even have any feedback to let you know that you've picked up an item at all. In the first level, I kept finding and picking up what looked like packets of cocaine, and I never figured out what they do. It wasn't until I reviewed the footage I discovered that they're actually health. I think some nondescript tiles are actually ammo. I thought the game had regenerating health because my health count kept going up when I wasn't looking. Turns out when enemies die, they drop these little kidney bean looking things, and those restore your health. You can smash open boxes, but most of them are completely empty, and most of them can randomly have sticks of dynamite that immediately blow you up if you attempt to open the boxes, so why even have the damn things? I figured out on accident that if you press the reload button while equipping the fork, you'll lose a huge chunk of health and this glowing ball appears, and I have no idea what it does. There's also no feedback when you land a hit on an enemy to know that you're inflicting damage, and when you're playing janky puke like this, it'd be really nice to have some confirmation that the combat is working right. Oh, and doors will fail to open because there's an enemy on the other side pushing the door closed or trying to attack you through the door. The controls are bizarre too. Reloading is mapped to the right mouse button so that they could free up the R key to do nothing. The mouse's scroller switches grenades and you click the scroller for the shortcut to cycle weapons. Throwing those grenades is mapped to Q, which is tough to reach in the middle of the movement keys, and incidentally is usually mapped to that right mouse button that we blew on reloading. Oh, and tab brings up an arrow pointing to the objective in exactly one of the levels. And again, cluster the keys as tightly as possible. So after a little over half an hour walking through identical near-featureless hallways, you fight a boss, this giant rat. First you beat it to death, then it spawns an infinite stream of enemies until you figure out that you have to damage it some more, then the rat splits open and transforms into a monster with a ton of eyeballs who breathes fire. Yeah, that kinda just happens. Hope you instinctively knew not to waste ammo on the first two phases because your melee attacks don't seem to do squat to this form. Of course, you have infinite lives, and if you die, you just respawn before the boss with all your ammo refilled for free, so at the end of the day, who cares? That's the big problem with this game. It wants to be a horror game, and it wants to be a shooter game, but it can't find the right balance between the two. If they were going for a shooter, they don't give you nearly enough ammo, and you constantly have to resort to melee weapons. If they were going for a horror game, there just aren't any horror elements. Say for the sake of argument that I find the enemies, i.e. gluing bloodshot eyes onto assorted vegetables, assume I find that scary, which I don't. It takes more than messed up looking enemies and a few dark rooms to make a horror game. The environments look like generic asset flip levels with no atmosphere, the combat is too easy, the protagonist I think is meant to be this stoic, badass samurai who doesn't afraid of anything, and we can't get invested enough into this vague, non-existent world to find any of it scary. Then again, they say man fears what he does not understand, and I have yet to understand a single thing that's happened. Fair enough. The second chapter, the tomato chats with another vegetable of unknown origin, who is apparently his father. Oh, and the tomato's name is Tomate. Racked your brain for days coming up with that one, huh? They argue over whether the dead sheriff is actually dead. The sum total explanation we get for what happened last chapter is an offhand mention of cultist mutants. They say that waking up the rat changes everything. The dad tells him to turn this cheek and then talk to those who will survive. I'm directly quoting there. And then we're walking through a massive empty desert with scattered flaming houses, and every now and then a dragon comes by and silently attacks you until you circle, strafe, and bludgeon it to death. Sure, why not? We have dragons now. That goes with a Wild West setting where everything else in the game world is a mutant plant. But then after you wander through empty desert for a few minutes, a city just spontaneously pops in off to the left. So hell if I know what kind of world this is. Also, what is up with the most impossibly clear night sky in history? The skybox looks like we're in deep space. Well, thankfully, this level is short. You wander through an empty field for like 5 minutes until you come across a police station where you fight zombie tomatoes. Oh god, BMC warned us about the zombie tomatoes, and now they're here! You fight a few zombies who can drain your health in like a second until you come across a lizard in a lab coat who says that he had no choice, swells his head, and he pulls out a minigun, and you fight him. And when you kill him, this giant flying egg with arms and legs comes by and kills him.
I'm getting sick and tired of never understanding.
I'm really grasping for straws at the plot here. Maybe the store page description will explain what I'm trying to accomplish, or what the story is, or what kind of world we're in. Some devs print the story there, so let's give it a try. Okay. On Earth, everything is bad. People fled or died. Their place was taken by the plants. Our hero is young tomato that makes money by destroying monsters. In fact, it is much more difficult, but there will be spoilers. Close parentheses, close parentheses, close parentheses, vegetables, meat, and family values. Well, now that we cleared that up, the boss fight with the lizard thing runs like utter shit. I fought this thing multiple times and the frame rate got worse each time until my last battle clocked in a frame rate of 5 frames per second. I just run around the guy mashing the fire button. I have no idea if I'm hitting him. I just know that I very badly want to vomit. The killer is I had to beat this guy twice, because the first time I killed him, I wandered into a house, got trapped inside the house by a dragon who snuck up on me, and got pinned and died. Yes, the game doesn't even drop a checkpoint after you kill the friggin' boss! And the checkpoint before the boss is right next to a zombie who kills you in a second if you don't realize what's happening. The dick! Right before the boss is this mushroom man who offers to sell you items with all the money that I don't have. The game has a shop system where you can use money to buy grenades, ammo, or health, but apart from finding $12 at the very start of level 1, and I still don't know where they came from, I haven't seen a single dollar since. Plus you lose all your money when you die, so it's not like you'll still have cash by the time you get here. The throwing weapons blow, you recover health automatically, buying ammo just gets you a little bit of relatively useless shotgun ammo, and every time you die your inventory resets anyway, so even if the shops worked, they're friggin' useless. So Tomate walks into town, a car just kinda materializes around him, and he gets into a car wreck to end chapter 2. He He comes to with a mushroom looming over him who hands him a button to push when he wants to visit, and then he teleports away.
I'm getting sick and tired of never understanding.
Now you're on some kind of wrecked island in the middle of a city and the only building around is a hospital. This level is friggin' annoying. The enemies here are some giant pickles with googly eyes and they kill you in one hit. Wait, that time I only lost 10 health getting hit. What the? Oh, I get it now. The dev couldn't program hit detection, so the game can register a single enemy attack as hitting you upwards of 10 times, and normal enemies can one-shot you to death. Anyway, the pickles have a shitload of health. The only weapon that does anything to them is the machine gun, and it takes about a full magazine to kill each one. 4 pickles and 2 magazines, you aren't given nearly enough ammo to get through the stage. There's no running past them either. The cucumbers move at the same speed you do, so once they catch you, you're just dead. After a lot of trial and error, I found out you can beat this level if you ignore the shit pickle Rick on the first floor and kill one of the others with the thrown explosives. The problem is the explosive weapons have such abysmal splash damage that I didn't even think the damn things worked. You get 3 types of grenades. Mines are supposed to go off when an enemy walks over them, and half the time they just don't. The sticks of dynamite have a time delay that'll never hit a moving target, and the Molotov cocktails seem to be the most effective, if only for the fact I can tell that they're actually doing damage. But none of them seem to do anything unless you get a pitch-perfect throw and land a direct hit on the enemy. Luckily, the pickles just stand there staring at a wall unless you get really close to them, not even reacting when dynamite explodes at their feet. 3 different grenades, you'd think at least one of them would actually work on accident. Oh, and every time the pickles kill you, you have to sit through this cutscene of the mushroom guy teleporting and Tomate sitting on ass. You can't skip it. Hell, even if you alt-tab out of the game, say to type notes while this cutscene plays for the 10th time, the cutscene will actually pause until you go back to the game. So whatever in the hell's going on, the dev really thinks that you need to see it. The final boss is some dragon that splits open to have a ton of eyes inside it and it flies around spitting fire. The only weapon that deals any decent damage to it is again the machine gun, and even dying to replenish your ammo and using the resupply right before the boss, you don't get anywhere near enough ammo to kill this thing, let alone the insta-killing pickles that it poops out. The only way to kill this boss is to find out there's a second hidden ammo resupply if you climb these boxes, and then you can shoot it to death. And no, I'm pretty sure the eyeballs are not weak points that you're supposed to go for, on account of this game is shit. Plus, at one point during this boss, I accidentally threw my hammer with the reload button, I died and respawned, the hammer was gone from my inventory, and it never came back. So you kill the dragon, you get a horrendously animated cutscene of Tomate triggering his teleporter to cut the dragon's head off, and then it cuts to Tomate meditating where a worm comes out of him and it says he has much to learn, and then the game ends. Why start making sense now? And because the dev thought he was good at programming combat, there's an arena mode where you fight endless swarms of enemies. Unfortunately, the dev was not good at programming combat, so you just die in like a minute. So that was Tomato Way. It looks like crap, it runs like crap, the weapons are crap, the combat is both broken and boring, the enemies are monotonous, the bosses are bullshit, it's buggy and confusing, and the plot makes no friggin' sense. I still have no idea what happened the entire game. You fight bugs in hell rescuing kidnapping victims, then fight dragons and zombies in some kind of post-apocalypse over a sheriff. Our character is a wanted fugitive and maybe a mad science experiment is involved and maybe aliens too. The terrain of Testament had better world building than this, and somehow it gets worse. They made a Tomato Way sequel in July of this year. But my brain can only process so much concentrated stupid at once, so we'll save that for another time.